Hey guys, welcome to the N1 Platinum Show. I am your humble host, and today we're going to be looking at a Mermail traptrix deck. Now this deck originally came to me when I was trying to make Mermails as competitive as possible, and this deck is pretty much won 80% of the time against shaddolls and Burning Abyss. Okay guys, now let's go through it. Now, the way this works, you're going to have 1 Abyss Megalo, 3 Abystiuses. That's basically typical for any kind of build you'll look at. You know, they'll always have these 3 cards. I do not have an Abyss lead in this just because you'd have to be running like 25 or more. This deck does run 25 monsters, but you have to be running 25 Abyss or Mermail cards in order to actually legitimize having that, because it'll be a dead draw unless you use Abyss Sphere. But then what's the point? Because these guys can all do the same thing with Abyss Lindy. Speaking of it, we've got 3 copies of Abyss Lindy. Pretty much, I've seen like every deck runs 3 of these. I mean, I remember seeing one where it ran 2, but it doesn't really make sense because the whole point of Abyss Sphere is to play it with this card. You can also play it during your turn to pull out an Abystius or a Megalo, but that's only when you're going into a rank play. But you wouldn't really want to do that against shaddolls because of Shaddol Fusion, but that's another story. That's actually my last video. Okay, here we go. Mermail Abyss Gundy. I mean, there's a reason why this got knocked down to 1. It is really good. Basically, you know, you play Abyss Megalo, discard her and an Abystius. Her effect kicks in, you get an Abystius, and then you can go into a rank 7, which will, you know, the extra deck we'll get into in a little bit. Okay, Atlantean Dragoons. That's another card that got hit to 1, but basically this is just a search card. Pretty awesome. And then we got 3 copies of Undyne. I mean, pretty much every deck you look at has 3 copies of this, or Abyss Pike, or they have combos of 2 of this, 3 of him, and stuff like that. But basically, in this deck, we will not be running Abyss Pike, simply for the sake of, we already have 6 Traptrix monsters in here, a whole bunch of trap cards dedicated to them, so there isn't really room. However, I haven't really felt as though this deck has suffered from that. Okay, and then we got 3 Gen X controllers, of course, and then we got 2 Atlantean Pikmin, and then 2 Atlantean Heavy Infantry. Now, the reason why I do 2 of each instead of 3 Pikmin and 3 Infantry is because a lot of tellarknights, Burning Abyss, and heck, even shaddolls, one of their biggest things is they have really powerful beat sticks on the field for prolonged periods of time, so it doesn't really make much sense, especially with artifacts being a thing for marksmen, to actually be at 3 in this deck. However, it is handy against the tellarknights and Burning Abyss for back row. However, you can still use him to take out like face down shaddol beasts and like shaddol constructs that were special summoned with Falcon. Okay, now for the traptrix, we got 3 Mermail. Of course, you know, she's the bread and butter of kind of this variant, I would say. However, I do really think that this deck could really pick up speed. Basically, getting her in your first to third turn is really good. I mean, it opens up the door to continue to have rank 4 plays. I mean, you won't be playing Bahamut Shark or necessarily beefed up, being able to pull out Abyss Dweller that's beefed up. However, you can still pull him out with this deck. You still get his effect, which is what you're looking for. However, this still allows you to go into rank 4 plays, which we'll also get into a little bit. Got 3 Dianara, playing her. Basically, even if you get her in your first hand, you can still summon her out, so you can play another Dianara to special summon and go into a rank 4, which you'd want to do against Burning Abyss or tellarknights, but not against, you know, shaddolls necessarily, but that's my personal opinion. Okay, now of the spell cards, the one-ofs, we got 1 Dark Hole, 1 Raigeki, 1 Allure of Darkness, and as for the last of the one-ups, Moray of Greed. Now, the reason why I'm playing Raigeki and Dark Hole, a lot of people will think, well, you know, shaddolls are a thing. You wouldn't really want to be playing those cards. Well, number 1, there's only 1 of each, so you can easily side these out for other cards. And number 2, Construct will get its effect regardless of how you destroy it, and you're not going to win against an opponent that has it out. So having it in your hand for several turns until Construct, or, you know, say Tellarknight, Deltros, or, you know, if, you know, that's really a problem for you, or Dante comes out, it's really handy to just nuke it with Dark Hole or Raigeki, especially if they have multiple copies of similar cards. Now, Lord Darkness is still handy because, you know, you will easily get Gen X Controller into your hand. But Moray of Greed, a lot of people will think that this card right here is pretty much useless. And it is for the majority of water decks. Even Mermail at its heyday, I'd say don't run this card. But the reason why this card is being run in this deck, the reason why I put it in there, is because you aren't just playing Mermails. So say if you get a Megalo and like an Undyne, but you don't have, you can't pull any more Gen X cards out, you can play this and you might actually draw into Trap Hole and Traptrix cards. It's a good chance because this deck has over 10 Traptrix related cards. So this is actually a really good tech card. I would not run more than one, just because you won't always have 2 water monsters in your hand, believe it or not, or you'll want to use their effects. So this is basically just a good card to use. Whenever I've played it when I'm in a pinch, it has helped out a lot. Okay, then I'm no noob. 2 salvage cards. You can get, you know, Abyss Gunday, Abyss Linde, and you know, other Mermail cards back with this. And it's basically kind of like a Pot of Greed, except for cards you already have. And some would actually argue it's better than Pot of... Well, Pot of Greed is always universally good, but you're drawing into random cards. I mean, this... If you're late game, this is a godsend. I mean, it is a really good card. Okay, and then for the traps, we've got 3... These are ultimate, so it's hard to see. 3 Abyss Spheres. You know, this is run in every single Mermail deck. I have hesitated in the past of playing any archetype that relies on a trap card because it automatically makes it slower, but this is perfect for, you know, like basically I thought, hey, if you put Traptrix and Mermails, it's actually a more control-based deck instead of just a spam. And I've always liked control decks more, unless it was Telladead. Okay, 3 copies of Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. Now, the reason why I run this instead of another card that just destroys is because if Winda comes out, you immediately obliterate it. Well, actually, no, wait, never mind. Construct, I mean, not Winda. Basically, what you would want to use for Winda is one of the cards coming up. But basically, you know, you search this house. Mermailio is a really awesome card. Basically, it'd be these 2 Space-Time Trap Holes, which has replaced Horn of Heaven for me as like my favorite kind of trap hole. Let me get that. Man, it's hard for the camera to pick up, so shiny. But Space-Time Trap Hole, Time-Space Trap Hole, is basically replaced Black Horn of Heaven for me, simply because there are so many things that basically are invincible when they come out. Like Blackhorn could not stop a Winda. This can easily bounce a Winda back. It's pretty sweet. And that's why I'm running 2 of these. It's also searchable with Mermailio. Man, why is it all blurry? There we go. And then my last for the one-ofs in my trap car lineup, at least, is Bottomless Trap Hole. This card is just great because that way they can't get Construct's effect. I'd really like for them to push this to 3, because then basically it would probably, for this deck, it would be probably 2 or 3 of these, 2 of these. I'd probably put Traptrix Trap Hole to 1, or to 2, and probably pull out a spell card just to make them fit, just because it's such a great card to play against anything. Okay, now that does it for the monster cards. Now for the extra deck. Now for the extra deck, I am at least playing 1 Leo. You're easily able to pull out with Gen X Controller. You don't. I don't really think you need 2, simply because you aren't going to be using Gen X Controller that often, because sure, whenever you draw an Undyne, you'll have it. You might have an extra copy in your hand, but that'll be hit with a lure, so you'll probably only ever have a chance to maybe get out one of these. Then for the level 7s, I've got Black Rose Dragon. You can easily pull this guy out when you have a Traptrix on the field with Gen X Controller. As I said, you won't really have a Gen X Controller that much. But if you don't want to nuke the field, or you're not really able to because of card effects, you know, like Winda being indestructible, instead of just pulling him out and basically wasting him and just having 2400 beat stick, you could have Scrap Archfiend, which I really like. This is just a really good beater. Okay, and then for level 6s, I just got 1. It is Yugioh Guardian, because you will have like an Abyss Linde on the field, or you know, you might want to keep it there, but if you don't really want to, you could go into this. You could play an Abyss Gundy from your hand. You could probably even summon out a marksman and make this with a Gen X. Okay, now for my Exceed monsters for rank 7, got Bisgayo. Now this guy is actually he's kind of an awkward card to use in this meta, but it still works because when you pull him out, Construct cannot declare an attack, or any level 5 or higher monster cannot declare an attack. However, you cannot take out a card, say like Construct, with the same or higher attack power because you're not able to negate its effect because it's just as strong as this guy is. But it is good for holding off your opponent until you can deal with the card, like drawing into a Dark Hole or a Igeki or something. You might lose this guy, but you get rid of the problem. Okay, then got a Dracosac. He's a classic card. He's great to pull out because he's hard to get rid of. Big Eye, take control of a monster you can't normally destroy. Master of Blades, great to use against artifacts because the moment they try to pull out a guy and they're not familiar with this card, heck, even if they're familiar with the card, they'll, I believe, I'm not sure if one of the artifact dude's effect is mandatory, but even if it is, it punishes your opponent for doing the artifact thing, just simply because basically it flips the effect back on him because it hits him, you detach to negate the effect, and then you blow up one of their cards. I mean, this is probably one of my favorite rank 7s or even Exceed monsters of all time. Okay, and then for 4s, we got Abyss Dweller. I mean, you won't get the attack boost probably ever, but you're still able to negate the effects in the graveyard. It's great if you know they're going to try to play Sinister Shadow games. Ragna Zero is a great card, basically summon out like Traptrix DNA or Dianara, and you special summon Mermail, you blow up a card, you take this chick out, and then you blow up your opponent's monster if their attack is different, and then you draw a card, so you basically go, I think, like a +1 when the card comes out. Okay, then for the other 4s, because there is some extra room in this extra deck, not everything is mandatory because you won't be going into much of these just because you only need 1 or 2 of these. 101 Arc, self-explanatory, along with Exciton Knight. Nightmare Shark, very easy to make. Basically, if your opponent has like 3,500 life points, you pull him out. And if he exists for 2 turns, your opponent's dead. And then 2 copies of Leviathan Dragon. I did consider putting Black Ray Lancer in here, but he just really didn't have enough attack power to hold up. I mean, you could pull him out. Like, I also considered putting Bahamut Shark in here, but the thing is, I believe you're not able to make it with this deck recipe just because, I mean, that's what you sacrifice when you pull out the Abyss Pikes, but the thing is there's only 3 of those, so there's really no point. So I just went with 2 copies of Leviathan Dragon. It's a good card to pull out. Basically, when it's a cop-out, you know, you just attack your opponent with it when, you know, you just need to get over a monster. Like, this would be excellent for against a Winda or something. Okay, and that's it for my extra deck. Okay, guys, this has been the N1 Platinum Show. Thank you for watching. If you found this video, make sure to check out my channel, favorite my videos, like them, and subscribe. And it's great talking to you guys. See you guys, or talk to you guys later. Oh, yeah!